name is Emily Leggett. I'm the teen librarian at the Tewksbury Public Library, and today we're going to learn how to make pumpkin cakes. So the first thing you are going to need is a mug. We'll actually need 2 of them by the end of this, but we're going to do our cake first, then we'll make our pudding, and then we'll put it all together with toppings. First things you're going to need is flour, sugar, cocoa powder, baking powder, and salt. Those are the first ingredients we're going to use, so we're going to measure those out. With us, and you signed up, you have them already done in little baggies. If not, I'm going to do them individually so people know what they're looking for. Okay. So we're doing 3 tablespoons of flour. Loud. So 1 tablespoon. Make sure it all comes out of there. 2 tablespoons. And 3. Something that is helpful when you're using a mug like this, I am actually going to do, get a paper towel or a plate or something underneath in case you start to make a little bit of a mess like I just did. All right, so the next we need sugar, which again is 3 tablespoons. We'll take our sugar. And get our 3 tablespoons of that. Okay. Our cocoa powder is going to be 2 tablespoons. Make sure that's all off. You can wash it in between. Just so you make sure none of this stuff gets into your other containers. You don't want your sugar and your cocoa powder or your flour in there. That's our 2 tablespoons. Put that in the sink so I can wash it. Next, we are going to get a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. So this is our baking powder, which has that nice little spot right there that you can make sure it's not going to be too full. It's 1/4 teaspoon. I apologize. I don't know if I said tablespoon. So put that in there. Perfect. And then salt, which if I remember is optional. It's a pinch of salt. Just a little bit. I usually pour just a little bit in my hand. And of course, make sure you wash your hands before you make any food. Okay. That is all of the ones we have. Now we're going to blend it first. You can use a spoon, you can use a fork, you can do whatever you'd like. We are going to whisk later with a fork, so if you don't want to dirty the same thing, you can just do that. One of the important things is to make sure you really get to the bottom of your mug, especially like mine has little ledges, so you want to make sure you're getting in there so stuff's not getting stuck and then you don't cook it unevenly. Okay. This is a recipe that you can also do with regular cake and pudding mix. This is just a simpler, easier way to do it, and that requires less work. Okay. All right, so after that, we're going to add the milk, the vegetable oil, and vanilla if you want vanilla. Okay. So I'm going to get the stuff I need for the milk and the vegetable oil, and I will be right back. There's our milk and our vegetable oil. Okay, so I did take a minute just to clean off my little spoon, my little teaspoon. So because we're needing teaspoons for these as well, and I want to make sure nothing got mixed. So for milk, we're using 3 tablespoons. This I always recommend, especially if you have a bigger jug than this, you go really slow, or you make sure somebody's there to help you, because you don't want to spill over and then go into your cup And then I have too much milk. And there's our teaspoons, or tablespoons rather, for that. Put our milk back. And then next up is 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil. So same thing, different item. There we go. I think we're gonna do some vanilla extract. Let me see. Again, this is optional, it's for taste. You don't have to. It's very little, so I'm just gonna literally put just a tiny bit. You can also put it in one of your teaspoon measurers if you would like. And so next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna blend it until it's smooth. Okay. I'm gonna mix this up. If you can see, it's a lot of different things going on in there. Really mix it up so it kind of looks like cake batter. That's kind of what we're going for. It's going to be a little bit different in consistency, and that's okay. But you want to, again, get around the side so there's not any extra powder. Really get in there so we get it all. If you would like to add chocolate chips, and you can add different things. This is your cake. You can add different types of chocolate chips too. We are going to put in chocolate chips. That is the next step of this. So once you are done mixing, you get really to the bottom, because like the bottom of mine still has some powder, if you can see that. You really want to get to the bottom of your mug to make sure there's not more powder left over. Okay, now that that's done, we're gonna get our chocolate chips over here. And so the measurements, according to the recipe, is 3 tablespoons of chocolate chips. You can do as many or as little as you would like. You don't have to do that many. I'm going to take a little bit of a handful because I noticed making this before, it seemed like there were too many. Kind of took over the cake. And then you're going to mix those in because you want those to be everywhere. You don't want just one chunk of chocolate chip. And when you bake it, it'll mix nice and well. Okay. Should get that done, push that in. All right. Next, your step is going to be to microwave on high for 90 seconds. That is dependent on your microwave. So you might have to do a little bit longer. You'll be able to tell it'll look, the top might still look a little bit like this, but underneath will look like cake. If you need to do it more in 10-second increments, because if you overcook it, it'll be dry. Okay, so let me do that. I'll come back and I'll show you. While you're microwaving, it's a good time to clean all your stuff up because we're doing another mug meal after this, so we can layer our cake and make a full pumpkin cup. You want to have those things readily available. Okay, so be careful when you take it out. It might still be hot, but I'm going to show you consistency-wise what this looks like. And sometimes I'll just check underneath to make sure it's where I want it. Get those chocolate chips nice and melty. So what we're going to do next, this is going to go to the side. We're not going to touch this. We're going to let this cool down for at least 3 minutes. It's very hot, and it will start to melt other things if you put it near it. So, next step, new mug. It is time to make pudding. This one's actually really cool and kind of surprising how easy it is to make. Okay. So this one does require 3 tablespoons of chocolate chips. Again, any kind you want. It does suggest bittersweet. We did semi-sweet and it worked out just fine. It just depends on what taste you like. And you're also going to mix it with cornstarch. That's going to be a tablespoon and a teaspoon. So we're going to keep our handy dandy tablespoon ready for our chocolate chips. Also, Make sure how you open the bag so they won't get everywhere. Because I have done that. Again, this is not necessarily precise. So get as much chocolate as you really want. Just don't fill the whole thing. Okay, so we need a teaspoon of cornstarch. So let me get my teaspoon out. Our cornstarch. Okay, so this is our cornstarch. Any cornstarch will do. And a teaspoon. Put that right in there. Perfect. Okay, next is salt, vanilla, and that milk again. We're gonna do our milk first so we have it, which is half a cup of full fat milk. It does request that we use full fat milk. I have not tried it with any other, so I'm not sure how specific that needs to be, but just a heads up. We'll grab our milk and our measuring cup. This is our half a cup. Fill that up. Okay, pour that in. Again, if you need help, make sure you ask. So you're not doing that alone, especially if it's a bigger gallon of milk or half gallon. Okay. And then vanilla and salt. Vanilla and salt are not optional in this one. So as an 1/8 teaspoon of salt, which what I have been doing. If you have an 1/8 teaspoon, awesome, perfect. I have been filling up half of our 1/4 teaspoon to the best of my ability. Ooh, that is way too much. So we're gonna pour that back. There we go. All right. And it is a teaspoon of vanilla extract, which I already have out because we used it in our last one. Perfect. Next up, we're going to do probably what you know we're going to do next is stir it all together. The chocolate chips. It makes it a little clinky when you do it. Perfect. Now, we're going to microwave this one as well. This one's a little bit trickier. So, we are going to microwave it for 1 minute. And mix it. We're going to put it back in for 30 seconds and mix it again. We're going to keep going until it's the consistency we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you after a minute, after 30 seconds, and then let you know how many it took me. But again, it's dependent on your microwave, so it may be different for you. Okay? Okay. So this is what it looks like without mixing after 1 minute. So we're going to mix that up. And of course the chocolate is going to start to melt, so you'll start to get almost, it looks like chocolate milk. And it might be a little bit, there might be little pieces. Again, get to the bottom of the bowl as much as you can. See how there's a little chunks? That's okay. It's gonna go away the more we melt. So I'm gonna put that down for now. Another great thing while I put this in for another 30 seconds to do is to clean up your supplies while you're going, so you have less to do at the end. I will see you in 30 seconds. Okay. So after the first 30 seconds, it looks a little bit questionable. It looks a little bit muddy and bumpy. So you're gonna mix it up again. And this is the consistency you want for pudding. So I'm gonna definitely do another one because this is a bit too watery for me. Again, this will start to come off as we go, so I'll do another 30 seconds. The more and more you do this, the more you'll see the color change, the texture change, and sometimes, I did probably the first time I did this, I want to say 4 or 5 different ones. This is our second for this one. You can leave it for a minute and see if it settles in a way that you like as well. Okay? Alright, I'm going to do as many as I can, to get this consistency I want, and then I will be back to tell you how many it took. Okay, so I did 3 in total, which gives me this little consistency. I do also want to remind you that while you're doing this, give it breaks in between. The mug will get hot, and I don't want you to burn yourselves. So once you have a desired outcome, I'm going to leave it there, see how it sits and how I like how it looks. And now we're to the fun part. Toppings. You need toppings. You can vary these however you want. These are the ones I chose to use that I thought would make it fun. You can do whatever you want to do with it, okay? We will have a Heath Bar. We're also going to need a Ziploc baggie. So this is a big Ziploc baggie only because I didn't have any smaller ones available. You do not need one this size. A regular sandwich baggie works. Again, make sure to wash your hands before you touch anything. So I'm going to put crushed up Heath Bar in mine. Heath Bar can be a little dicey to crush up. I like to start by breaking the individual pieces as much as I can and then crushing. And down further and further. Okay. Perfect. It is hard to do. Sometimes they get stuck in your Ziploc baggie. There we go. Okay. Let me grab something real quick. Okay. You can use whatever you'd like. You need something a little bit sturdier than a plastic fork or spoon. I'm using this. I'm using the end of this. You can also use the end of a spoon. You can use the top of a spoon. You can just crush with your hands and punch it a little bit. You can ask for adult help. Please do. Please do not just grab this. Another good idea is if you're going to do it with something like this, put this bag in another bag because inevitably this is going to break because you're repeatedly hitting it and you don't want your Heath Bar to get everywhere. So it's going to be a little loud for a minute, but break those up, and then you can do some by hand. And again, this is how much you want them broken down. If you don't want Heath Bar, you don't have to use it at all. All right. Okay. The next step is to grab Oreos. Okay. I did Thin Mint Oreos because I like that they have green in them like grass, but you can do any type of Oreo. Knowing that that color, if it's not the regular ones, will show a little bit. I did 5 of the Thin Mint ones, and they are tinier than regular Oreos. So this is going to go on as a topping. So it really depends how much you want. This recipe that we're making will make probably 2.5 pumpkin cups. So that's how much I like them crushed. So that's what we have. We'll put that with our Heath Bar. And now it is time to put them together. Okay. If you have your pumpkins, you are more than welcome to use your pumpkins as well. You can layer this however you would like to layer this. So let me just grab a spoon real quick. So you can layer it Heath Bar, chocolate pudding, chocolate cake, pudding, however you want to do it. So what I like to do is start with a layer of cake. So we're going to take our mug meal cake. We're going to make sure it's mixed up a little bit so we can grab chunks and just drop it in a cup. You can also make lots of these and just make a bigger recipe if you want to bring them somewhere. It can get messy, so just be careful with that. So from the side, that's how much I put in. Remember, you're trying to balance it out. So you might need more of one thing than the other. I'm actually going to do them both at the same time. So I'm going to do these two slightly different. One thing you want to make sure of. For one of them, I'm going to put Heath Bar next. The other one, I'm going to put Gummy Worms like they're in the dirt. You really want to make sure, see how this is steaming up because it's so hot? You want to make sure that is cool before you put Gummy Worms or they will melt. A nice way to do that fast is to take that cup, put it in the fridge. Let it cool down a little bit. The best way to do it is to leave it out and let it naturally cool, but if you're in a rush, it will work. Okay, so this one's going to be Heath Bar. Take our bag of Heath Bar. And we're going to pour just a little bit in. Perfect. Because we're going to use Heath Bar in both. Again, there's our Heath Bar. So for this one, I think I'm going to put more cake next. Take our cake, fill that up. You want to cover whatever the layer was below it. So for this one, it's Heath Bar. Perfect. It does get a little bit messy, like I said, so make sure you're cleaning up after yourself as you go. Okay, this one's cooled down a little bit. So next is going to be Gummy Worms. The size of Gummy Worms you use is up to you. I liked, well, that one was a good example since it fell, like these little ones. So I like to do one there, so they look like they're moving around against the cup. And it looks like that, okay? And this one is going to get pudding next, and so is this. So you're going to take your pudding, and this is it once it's sat for a minute. Kind of mix it up, it gets more puddingy. So again, you'll have like enough for 2.5, depending on how you layer. Again, you want to make sure this is a little cool as well. My Gummy Worms might actually melt a little bit because they were hot while I did it, which is okay as long as you like melted Gummy Worms. All right, next up is more cake. So again, for this, I will have all of them. All of the materials will be in it, but how they're used is different. Okay, so that's gonna go there. They both have pudding. This one's gonna get a little bit extra pudding. So you can leave your pudding on top if you want. There we go. Hang on. So this one doesn't have Gummy Worms yet. We could probably use some more cake if that's going to be our top layer. So you really don't want to see the other layers except from the side, which you'll notice you can kind of see all our different layers. So tops, because we're doing, it's supposed to be dirt. It's going to be Oreo. And get another spoon. Clean off this spoon rather. So we will have a spoon. Let me put that right there. Now that we have our spoon, dig in our Oreos. Get a good spoonful and just sprinkle it on. Same thing for this one. Again, how it looks is up to you. Anything that falls out, just make sure you clean up after. Don't put it on if it's touched the counter. Perfect. So I want this one to have a little bit more. Awesome. Now the next step is our last couple of things. Next up is cream pumpkins. and gummy worms. You can put those however you would like. The idea is it looks like a little pumpkin patch. So, one there, however many you want. And then you can add gummy worms if you would like, sticking out like they're coming out of the ground or on top. Probably put that one a little bit that way. All right, and there you have your pumpkin cups. Like this, they look like from the side. These are still a little hot, but they are good to go. They're good for you to enjoy, to eat. Let me know. Send us a picture if you made your own, what you changed, what you added. We'd love to see the different variations. Thank you so much for joining us. To check out other programs we offer, like this one, virtual and in person, you can check our website at tewksburypl.org. Make sure you check out our social media as well so you know what's going on in the library. We will see you next time. Bye.